September this year, 2023. So the question says, once children start school, teachers have more influence than parents on their intellectual and social development. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So for this question, we are going to have 3 steps. We're going to deconstruct in 3 steps that will impart to the planning of this question. So before I start even writing down the introduction or the question itself, the essay itself, I will plan my essay. So you can allocate 5 minutes from your writing task to, so you have an hour for your writing task, in which we most of the times recommend to devote 20 minutes to your writing task 1 and 40 minutes to your writing task 2. Now, out of these 40 minutes that you're going to use for your writing task 2, please make sure that you at least use 5 minutes of your time to plan your essay, so that when you're writing, you're clear on your ideas and the structure and how you're going to follow your ideas throughout the essay. It is very, very important, because once you start writing, it might not be very easy for you to go back and make those changes that you remember afterwards. All right. So step 1 would be to understand the given statement. So again and again, 25% of your writing assessment or criteria that is used to judge or score you, 25% of that is task response. Now, what is task response? Is the relevance to the question. Now, how can we make sure that our answer is very, very relevant to the question? By not digressing to the trajectories of the argument. So whenever you're giving an argument, there might be sub-arguments related to it. But we have to make sure that our argument is directly and inherently related to the question, and we are not digressing to some other part of the argument. For this to be done, we make sure that we understand the given statement. We read it again and again. We dissect it. If you want to underline the keywords, you can underline the keywords. You can make your notes accordingly and make sure that you understand the statement. Now, for this statement, we're talking about children. The actor in the question is children. Then the argument is teachers have more influence. So one side is teachers have more influence than the parents on what? On their intellectual and social development. So I underline these words because these are the main value words, the key words that we are going to talk about in our essay. So the essay states that we're talking about children's intellectual and social development, and then we're going to argue whether teachers have more influence or parents. So this is the entire argument. Now, before starting, we have to deconstruct it. So we understand that what do we have to agree upon? We need to understand that if you agree with this statement, are you saying that parents have more influence or teachers have more influence? So according to the statement, if we agree to the statement, we mean teachers have more influence. But if we disagree to the statement, then we are saying that parents have more influence on what? Children's intellectual and social development. So this is how you will reread the question again and again, and then also make sure that what argument is given and what is the side that is taken in the argument, so that we can agree or disagree accordingly. Next, step 2, understand the instruction. So the instruction here is, to what extent do you agree or disagree? That means this is an opinion essay. You are supposed to express your opinion on the matter. So a lot of times what happens with my students is they will say that, oh, I agree with this statement, but then go on to talk about, let's say, parents have more influence, because they fail to understand the argument and the question. So make sure that you understand it, and then you can move on to your agreement. Now, when we talk about the opinion here, we can have 2 kinds of opinions. What are those 2 kinds of opinions? Number 1, you can either have a one-sided opinion. What do I mean by one-sided opinion? That you agree to the one side of the question. That could be teachers have more influence or parents have more influence, one side. Then we can have a balanced opinion. What is a balanced opinion? That you believe, yes, both of them have some sort of influence. Maybe teachers have more, but both of them have influence on the children. So that could be a balanced opinion. Now, when we write down this essay, according to your opinion, we will have a different structure for this essay. So we need to make sure that whatever the question, your opinion is, you are very clear it on front end, so that when you start writing, you know how to structure your essay. Last but not the least, generate content. So once you've decided your opinion, once you are okay with your opinion and you've decided that this is my opinion, then we will start generating the content. What do we mean by generating the content? Creating points for both the sides. So if I agree with this statement and I say teacher have more influence, why do they have more influence? If I agree or disagree and say parents have more influence, why is that? 2-3 points for that. And if we have a balanced opinion, then we have 2-3 arguments, 2 arguments for one side and the other argument for the other side, always in the ratio of 70:30. All right, so let's move forward. All right, agreement or disagreement can be 100% or partial. So since right now we talked about one-side opinion and balanced opinion, we'll also be looking at the structure difference that it will create in our essays. So number 1, let's just quickly see this. All right. So when you have 100% or complete agreement, then we have 2 complete body paragraphs. So I will write down the complete structure one here quickly once. When we have one-sided opinion, the structure of your essay will look like, as usual, we'll start with introduction. Then we'll move on to body paragraph 1. And we'll provide our argument for the agreement. Let's say that this is an agreement essay. We are completely agreeing with the essay. So you'll provide body paragraph 1 and the reason for it. Then we will have body paragraph 2, where you will have argument number 2 in agreement. And then we will have conclusion. This is the structure for a one-sided opinion. How does a balanced opinion essay look like? So when you have balanced opinion, again, we'll start with the introduction. Then we will move on to the support the partial agreements. So let's say you think that teachers have more influence, but parents also to a certain extent have some influence. So first we will give an argument for parents that they have, certain amount of influence. Then we will have body para 2, where will we talk about teachers. Why do they have more influence? Then we'll have body paragraph 3, again talking about teachers, and then we will have conclusion. Now, always remember that when you're talking about your balanced viewpoint, it cannot be 50-50. It cannot be both the sides. Oh, teacher also have an influence, parents also. No, you can only choose one side, but then you can balance your opinion. How does that happen? By having a 70 and 30% agreement. What does that mean? That you incline on one side more than the other. So this is the structure that you're going to follow for either of the sides. Let's see, for this essay, we have chosen 100% agreement with the statement. So we'll have the sample written in 100% agreement. Starting with the introduction. Introduction. As children commence their primary education, their teachers have a significantly greater impact on them as compared to their guardians when it comes to their personal and academic development. I completely agree with this statement, since teachers can spend a notable amount of time with the youngster, shaping their future. Now, before I explain this introduction, we need to deconstruct the structure for an introduction. So what is a generic structure or outline of an introduction looks like? So for your introduction, there are 3 things. Number 1, you paraphrase the given statement. What do I mean by paraphrase? Just rewrite whatever the question is given to you, all right? You can use synonyms, you can use multiple kinds of sentence structures. Then we will have points briefly. So you can also discuss, let's say, brief. We can talk about arguments. You can briefly talk about the arguments that you're going to talk about in this essay. So whatever your argument is, why do you think teachers are more important? You can talk about them in this particular, in the introduction, very briefly, just briefly remarking on them and not going in detail about them. Last but not the least, we're going to talk about the thesis statement. Now, what is a thesis statement? A thesis statement is the question to the, is the answer to the given question. So the question here is, to what extent do you agree or disagree? So what would be the thesis statement? You will be clearly stating your opinion that I completely agree with this statement or I disagree with this statement. So whatever your opinion is, you'll completely state it in your thesis statement. All right. So for this essay, if you can see, yes, we started with, as children commence their primary education, their teachers have a significantly greater impact on them as compared to their guardians. So see, here we have, instead of writing start school, we have written commence their primary education. That is one way you can incorporate synonyms. Their teachers have a significantly greater impact as compared to, instead of writing parents, we have written guardians, and comes to their, instead of intellectual and social development, personal and academic development. This is your paraphrased statement. Then you can either discuss the arguments or you can move on to the thesis statement. So we have written, I completely agree with this statement since teachers spend a notable amount of time with the youngsters shaping their future. So in the thesis statement, we have given a hint of what is our argument going to be about, but also stated our opinion that I completely agreed with this statement. So this is how you can write down your introduction. All right, let's move on to the body paragraph 1. All right. So before starting into the starting the body paragraph, 3 essential elements of a body paragraph. What makes a good body paragraph? So whenever you're writing the body paragraph, understand the point behind writing that body paragraph. The idea or the agenda of a body paragraph is to completely develop your pointers or whatever arguments that you're giving. So what are your arguments? How can you develop them? You start with a topic sentence. What is a topic sentence? A topic sentence is a sentence that gives an idea or an introduction to this particular body paragraph. Okay, that what are you going to talk about in this particular body paragraph? If we are talking about agreement or like how teachers are important, then why are they important? What is the argument number 1 that we're going to discuss in this body paragraph? Then we have supporting statement. What do we mean by supporting statement? Supporting statement is a statement that develops further on your idea. That means elaborates your idea. So whatever you were talking about, you elaborate it, you expand it by giving more reasoning, more arguments to it. It is very, very important because you cannot just provide a one-liner sentence, an argument, and leave it there. It is important for you to develop it thoroughly and make sure that the examiner is completely convinced on whatever you are trying to convey through your idea. Last but not the least, an example. So you can add an example, which is an important part of your body paragraph to completely wrap your argument. So topic sentence, you elaborate with supporting statement, and then you wrap it up with the example and fully fledging developing your argument or your point. Last, one more thing that you might or you can add is a additional point or a concluding statement. So this is very, very optional. A lot of times students choose to write another concluding statement within the body paragraph, but you may or may not write. We have written one here, so you can see how is it done. But the 3 major arguments or the 3 major essential elements of a body paragraph are topic sentence, supporting statement, and example. So let's start. Teachers act as torchbearers for children and they continuously help them throughout their academic years. Also, it is teachers who indeed enhance the learning abilities of pupils, align them with their academic curriculum, while also providing a structured environment to inculcate these learnings. So we're talking about how teachers are the person who continuously help them throughout their academic years by aligning their learning from academic curriculum and also providing a structured environment, which is a more important thing. For you to learn something, you need a structured or organized way to approach it. That is where teachers come into play to inculcate these learnings. That means to thoroughly get these learnings into your brain. Next, we have an example. For instance, a tutor makes sure that each student is disciplined in school and is grasping for the concepts of variety of subjects. So this is the example that we've given. How teachers make this happen? They make sure that every student is disciplined in school and is grasping. So they give this personalized attention and they make sure that every student is grasping whatever they are trying to convey with their academic curriculum or their learning curriculum. In addition, again, this is the optional point that we talked about, a way teacher imparts knowledge to learners leaves an indelible impression on them as they discover the areas they want to build their career in the coming years. So this is the first body paragraph in support. Let's move on to the second body paragraph. All right, so the structure will remain same. Topic sentence, supporting point, and example. You can do a little tweak with them. You can write the example before and then support it with your supporting statement, which is fine. But make sure that all 3 crucial elements are there so that you give a fully developed point. So we start with furthermore, which is a linker to connect it to the last body paragraph. Furthermore, teachers also have a significant impact on a child's behavior and values as they continuously contribute to character development of a student. So in the last body paragraph, if we saw, we talked about the academic or the intellectual development, which was one part of the question, intellectual development. Now here I'm addressing the social development. So see, this is why I emphasized underlining the keywords in the beginning, because we cannot just talk about academic development or just talk about social development. Both of them are important. That is why if you underline them in the very beginning while writing down your essay, you can remember that this is also part of the question that needs to be covered. Next, for instance, teachers educate their learners on how to communicate with their peers with mutual respect and educate them on morals and values. So, for example, a lot of times teachers impart those, communication skills that inculcate values in you, like mutual respect, morals, values, ethics. All of this, a teacher plays a significant role in this part. Along with this, tutor also helps the student correct their mistakes and bring them on the right path whenever they deviate. So a lot of times when this learning is happening, it is not just important for you to learn them, but also correct your or rectify your mistakes and somebody to guide you through these mistakes. So that is where again teachers come into play. So this is how we have connected the entire body paragraph. This kind of shared guidance, which contributes towards the greater social growth of a child, might not be easy for parents to provide in some cases. So this is a concluding statement where we have compared quickly that why parents cannot provide this kind of statement, because sometimes it is not impossible for them to provide this kind of organized or structured guidance that a teacher might impart to students. So see how we have covered all parts of the question. We have covered that when students start school, teachers have more influence. Why? Because they spend notable time, they have more structured guidance, they can rectify their mistakes, all those arguments, we've built them with examples. But we've also focused on why parents sometimes may not be able to fulfill this by giving a very concise comparison here. We have talked about the intellectual and social development. So now, since we have covered all the parts of the question that was given to us, that means we will be scoring very well on the task response. That means our question is very well aligned to the task requirement or whatever that was asked of us. Let's move on to the conclusion. All right. So for conclusion, when we write a conclusion, two things we need to keep in mind. I always emphasize this to my students that for a conclusion, number one, you can just paraphrase your, sorry, just a minute. Yes, you can paraphrase your thesis statement. What do we mean by that? Whatever your thesis statement was, that your opinion that you stated in the introduction, the very beginning, you can paraphrase it and use it as your concluding statement. And also, no new pointers. Not make the mistake of adding any new pointers in your conclusion. You cannot add any new ideas, be it examples, be it through supporting arguments, or be it through topic sentences. You cannot add any new ideas in your conclusion. You can only talk about the things that you've already discussed in your previous essay. You can only sum it up in your essay and cannot make the mistake of adding something that hasn't been talked about before. All right. So we start with to encapsulate. So to encapsulate is another linker. Remember, when I talk about, so 25% of your task criteria, 25% of your assessment criteria is task response. Other 25% is dedicated to coherence and cohesion, which is how seamlessly your ideas are linking. So how can you link your ideas? By adding these linkers in between. To encapsulate, we saw furthermore, for instance, also, in addition, these are all the linkers that you can add to your essay. So for conclusion, you can use to encapsulate, to conclude, in conclusion, in a nutshell, all of them very viable options. Whichever suits you, you can use it. It can be undeniably said that once school commences, teachers play a more crucial role in child's academic as well as personal development as compared to parents. So see, this is just the paraphrasing of the thesis statement that we had written in the first introduction. No new arguments, no new pointers. If you wish, and if you have the word limit, that is, if you have a pending word limit, you can briefly add the arguments that we talked about, that why they have more influence because of their structured learning approach, their rectification of mistakes they do. You can add them if you wish to, but otherwise you can simply paraphrase your thesis statement. All right, let's move on. So this is the final essay. Let's have a quick look. So since this was 100% agreement, you can see four paragraphs in total: introduction, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and a conclusion. Now, we already talked about task response. But what are the other assessment criteria in your IELTS writing? What things are you judged upon? So it is also important for you to know that what examiner is looking for in your essay and how can you add it to your essay. So let's have a quick discussion. There are 4 categories: task response, we have coherence and cohesion, we have lexical resource, and we have grammatical range and accuracy. Task response, we've already talked about. Coherence and cohesion is your cohesiveness of the ideas, how seamlessly your ideas are linking from one to the another. If you're moving to another body paragraph, it's a linking in between. Is the transition abrupt or very smooth? Lexical resource is nothing but a fancy word for your vocabulary. So how can you show your vocabulary? You can use synonyms for the words given to you. For example, we used primary education, then we used guardians instead of parents, right? Especially for the value words, if you can think of some synonyms instead of repeating the words over and over again, it will be great because it will enhance your score for lexical resource. Then for social and intellectual, personal and academic, then torchbearers. You can also talk about pupils instead of writing children, academic curriculum, inculcate, grasping the concepts instead of understanding the concepts, imparts, indelible. Indelible is something that cannot be removed. Then with their peers, deviate, sheer guidance, that is a collocation that we have used, social growth, another collocation, then yes. So these are all the kinds of words, synonyms, collocations that you can use in your essays to enhance your lexical resource score. Make sure that you do not use idioms in your essay because essay is more of a formal writing. So idioms are more on the conversational or informal end, so you cannot incorporate them within your essay, but you can use these kind of synonyms, these kind of words. For example, collocation, other collocations could be structured environment, collocation are the words that go together seamlessly. Then you can use all of these for a better score in your lexical resource. Last but not the least is grammatical range and accuracy. So as the name states, grammatical accuracy is subject-verb agreement should be correct, your tenses should be correct. But what is the range? So grammatical range is the kind of sentences and tenses you're using in your essay. That means that you need to use a variety of tenses, not just stick to past tense, simple tense. Use continuous, use perfect tense, use all kinds of tenses in your essay, but also use different kinds of sentence structures. What do I mean by different kinds of sentence structures? I mean different kinds of sentence structures, for example, compound sentences, complex sentences. What is a compound sentence? What is a complex sentence? And a passive sentence. So for a complex sentence, just look at the first sentence. As children commence their primary education, their teachers have a significantly greater impact on them as compared to their guardians when it comes to their personal and academic development. So when I talk about as children commence their primary education, you can see that this clause is not complete in itself, right? Because this clause is dependent on the next part to fulfill its meaning. So when we have such kind of dependent clause and independent clause going together, then we have a complex sentence. All right. Then we have teachers act as torchbearers for children and they continuously help them grow throughout their academic years. Now we have joined 2 independent sentences, like teachers act as a torchbearer for children. This is an independent sentence. They continuously act as throughout their academic years clause. So when we join 2 independent clauses with the conjunction, and then we have a compound sentence. So this is how you can show your range of tenses and sentences, that you can use multiple complex sentences, multiple compound sentences. look through this essay and see if you can spot any other complex sentence within this essay. You can type them in the chat box, and we can give you a go ahead if yes, this is a complex sentence, if you're not or not, and how you can have more clarity on your concept. So this is the grammatical range and accuracy that we talked about. So 4 assessment criteria in totality are task response, relevance to the question, coherence and cohesion, your linking devices. Then we have lexical resource, that is your vocabulary. You can use collocations and synonyms. Last but not the least, grammatical range and accuracy for your, where you can use complex sentences, compound sentences, or different kind of tenses to show your hold over the language. All right. So that's it. That's all for today. Thank you so much for joining. For more such interactive IELTS sessions and content, please follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do not forget to press that bell icon so that you do not miss out on any free sessions or masterclasses that we conduct for you. And if you're looking to enroll for any IELTS classes, please log into our website www.yunolearning.com and find whatever class best suits you. You can have different kind of options. You can have crash courses or longer courses, whatever you might find according to your schedule, you can find it here. And if you have any other queries, you can also give us a call at this number